Hey folks, how are you? Welcome to the Haitian Holistic Channel. If you are new, welcome. And if you are a subscriber, today's video is called The Asian Persuasion on Haitian Voodoo. As I was putting together the Veve collection, I came across something that I found was really interesting, and I really haven't considered before. Um, Along my feed popped up Rangola. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. Rangola. They call it a few things. Kolam, Aripoma, Alpan. I hope that I'm pronouncing it correctly and not butchering it. But I found that they had a lot of similarities to what we used in the beginning of a service, fete, or ceremony in the Haitian voodoo culture. We call the ceremony itself Veve. And to me, the Veve is like the signature of the Loi in order to invoke the spirit before we go into the actual um, event itself. Um, and they use similar materials. For us, we use flour and cornmeal. And in the Hindu tradition, they don't necessarily do it before a ceremony, but as a blessing and for prosperity and cleansing to their particular property. They do it at the opening of their doorway. They use a lot of different colors, and they are very elaborate. Also, the Veve can get very elaborate as well, but they use different materials, different colors. For us, we can use cornmeal, coffee, um, even sometimes gunpowder. Um, and now I've seen people use a lot of different colors in their Veves as well. One thing that really um, inspired me to put the Veve collection together is that the Veve itself is the signature, and for us, um, Veves are to be memorized, and each societe, if you want to call it as such, has their own um, little tweaks that they will make to the Veve itself, and um, in essence, it's supposed to symbolize the loi. And for us, for quite some time, we have been using images of Catholic saints, and I feel that now at this time, they say the Bible says that God creates in its own image, and we need to bring our own images to the forefront and to celebrate what we have preserved. Those images allowed us to preserve a lot of the um, connaissance, the knowledge that we have had of the spirit itself. But the Veve comes directly from the creative mind, and the Ugan or the Mumble is drawing, you know, from above down onto the ground in order to invoke that particular spirit. And I think that those symbols and those drawings are, um, they don't have a face, but they represent us, and they allow us to um, be present and to participate fully, mind, body, and spirit in that particular ceremony, which makes it powerful. So to see the connection, the cultural exchange, if you will, between these two cultures, between these two nations, between these two countries that seem so vastly apart and different, um, really, it just it just really makes me love this religion and the tradition and the customs more and more. So I'm gonna go get a little bit deeper into it because there's a historical aspect um, to it that I was not even aware of that I would like to share with you. So when you think of Asia, one thing comes to mind, right? China. However, Asia includes countries such as, let's see, countries such as India, China, Japan, Russia, which is a transcontinental state, country, or whatever you want it to be, whatever you want to call it, but it's transcontinental. It straddles along two continents, both um, Asia and Europe. And it's interesting enough that now that they're having their particular conflict, Ukraine and Russia, both were part of the Soviet Union. And now that is dissolved, Russia takes a great portion of what would be considered the continent of Asia, a huge landmass. And Ukraine is really smaller, probably secondary to it. And one is just really taking over the territory of the other. Who knows what their conflict is, but, you know, we'll let them resolve their family feud, because I know that there are a lot of Russians who are over in Ukraine, and maybe this is a matter of territory, but I'm not well versed or educated enough in that area to even discuss it. So, moving right along, Iraq, Iran, um, Saudi Arabia, the Emirates, all of them are part of the Asian continent, which I found interesting. And we cannot forget um, the islands of the East Indies. Whoa. Okay. So the East Indies is a term um, that is used in historical narratives of the age of discovery. In another video, I touched on the doctrine of discovery, and the doctrine of discovery has had a huge impact, not only yesteryear, but still impacts us today. As far as Catholicism, again, I cannot stress how much the images have on the psyche, and being able to see yourselves in positions of glory, victory, power, but to be able to see yourself and identify in images, I think has a huge impact on the psyche itself. Um, and so I'll link. We know I'm still rusty with this whole recording YouTube thing, so I'll link and put the card somewhere, and later after this video, feel free to watch it. Um, The Indies refers to particularly the islands and the coastlands found in and around the Indian Ocean by the Portuguese explorers. In the beginning of this video, I think I put a Bible verse that says something regarding Asia. And the first time that I heard the term Asiatic was from Taj Tariq Bey. He was talking about Asiatics, and I was just like, why is he making this reference? But in just looking over this information and just looking it up and just reading up on it, it made sense, right? How we use the term Indians is used, but I digress. Let me get back to it. The sailing of the seven seas, the issuing of the bulla by the Pope, in order for these people, in order to claim lands in the name of certain kingdoms, the Spanish in particular. Okay, and we know one of the greatest seafaring people were the Moors itself. But I digress, right? Cool. Trinidad and Tobago is generally considered to be part of the West Indies. The West Indies is often interchangeable with the term Caribbean. Now it seems like there were two separate types of Indians that were in the West Indies. You hear a lot about the Arawaks and the Tainos. The Tainos seem to be the ones who were more docile, the more welcoming, warm, inviting, pleasant people to live amongst. And the Carib were the ones who were the rebels and ripping and roaring out there. And so we have the Caribbean. Although the latter may include Central and South American mainland countries. Now, I'm going to say this. I'm from Queens. I'm from Queens, right? And the first time that I saw and heard an Indian speak Spanish, that shit blew my, it blew my mind. Because I was like, wait a minute, whoa, Pakistan and the Hindus and all that, like, whoa, where's the Spanish? Because that's not the kind of language that they speak, and it kind of blew my mind. Come to find out, Guyana is part of South America. And then we have Trinidad and Tobago, where we have, all this soca and the Carnival and all this other stuff. They have these Indian features. So, pardon my ignorance, please excuse my ignorance. But for real, seeing that, it was a clusterfuck. But hey, let us move on. I digress. Jesus. Anyway, okay. So the term West Indies is often interchangeable with the term Caribbean, although the latter may include some Central and South American mainland countries, which may have Caribbean coastlines such as Belize, Guyana, and the Atlantic nations of Trinidad and Tobago. Both are distinct from the mainland groups, but culturally related. it brings me to the mind, the image that comes to mind, if sailing was the main form of transportation, and these are islands who are miles away from one another. There has to be a cultural exchange from one point to another. Um, but let's go deeper. Okay. Um, After the first voyages of Christopher Columbus to the Americas, and European began to use the term West Indies to distinguish this region from both the original Indies in the East, i.e., India, and the East Indies of the South of South Asia and Southeast Asia. It continues. Tulane University professor Roseanne Adderley says, what did she say? The island of Trinidad of Tobago changed hands among Spanish, British, French, and Dutch colonists more times than any other island in the Caribbean. Trinidad and Tobago is well known for its African and Indian cultures reflected in the famous Carnival. We are now in the time of Carnival itself. I think like last week sometime, I had the blessing to visit New Orleans. I'm going back. I feel like I need some more of that. I need some more of that. And it was weeks ago and they already took to the streets. They were having a good time. I need to go run that back again. New Orleans, NOLA is hitting. And and when I went, I felt like I was right at home. I was walking down the streets of Okap. I was walking down the streets of Jacmel, my home, where my maternal side of the family is from Malibu, Jacmel. I still have family out in Jacmel now, and it just reminded me of home. And so I was just looking at it and I fell in love. I definitely have to go back again because it hit close. And now with everything that's going on in Haiti, and it's nice to be able to visit home away from home. So we're staying hopeful. Haiti will get itself together. But in the meantime, let's get back to a little bit of this. British rule led to an influx of settlers from the United Kingdom and the British colonies of the Eastern Caribbean. I think I said that a little. Run that back again. British rule led to the influx of settlers from the United Kingdom and British colonies of the Eastern Caribbean. English, Scots, Irish, German, and Italian families arrived, as well as free blacks known as Americans. Americans. Huh. These said Americans fought for Britain in the War of 1812 and were granted land in Southern tradition. Why do I feel like I'm missing something? The Americans were African American Marines of the War of 1812, former African slaves who fought for the British against the against the U.S. in the core of colonial matters, and then after post-war service in Bermuda, were established as a community in the south of Trinidad in 1815 to 1816. Some of the company villages and land grants established still exist today in Trinidad. Okay. Now, under British rule, new states were created, and the importation of slaves increased. However, by the time support for abolitionism had increased and slave trade was under a watchful eye, slavery was abolished in 1833. By then, 1804, we know that Haiti had already fought and gained its independence as the first republic of the West Indies, the Caribbean, really setting the tone for other nations that would follow. Haiti and Haitians really got to get it together. The more that I read, the more that these Willie Lynch letters and this whole conquer and divide thing, it sets in. To separate one from another. It's amazing to see the amount of division that has taken place and the disassociation that has resulted from all of this information that has been withheld. I'm going to get off my soapbox now. Slavery was abolished in Trinidad and Tobago in 1933, after which former slaves served an apprenticeship. The apprenticeship period system ended on the 1st of August in 1838 with full emancipation. Doesn't this all sound like familiar terms that are used? But I'm still in the Caribbean. I didn't even get to the US yet. I didn't. And it seems like there's going to be a little bit of a journey before I could even take that in. There was an arrival of Indian indentured laborers. You know what bugs me out is how people of a darker hue are referred to as slaves. But people of another nation, another complexion, are referred to or given the opportunity, I guess, to be considered as indentured servants. Europeans were considered as indentured servants, and it also appears that these people from India are considered as indentured servants as well. Indentured laborers, not servants, laborers. After the African slaves were emancipated, many refused to continue working on the plantation. As a result, a severe agricultural labor shortage emerged. They, they were getting wild, right? The British filled this gap by instituting a system of indenturedship. Various nationalities were contracted under this system, including Indians, Chinese, and Portuguese. The doctrine of discovery allowed people to go over into these lands and claim them as their own. These people are native to the land, indigenous, if you will. And they become their slaves, right? But yet you want to invite people from someplace else, and then they become these indentured, whether they're laborers or servants. Like it really, it bugs me out. It bugs me out because no matter what, it seems like these so-called Black people are always put at the bottom of the totem pole. It's their land. They were there. And then you just act like they were not even present, and you claim something as your own. And then let's continue. Of these, East Indians were imported in large numbers starting from the 1st of May 1845, when Indians were brought in the first shipment to Trinidad, okay, on a Muslim-owned vessel. Indenturedship of the Indians lasted from 1845 to 1917, okay? During the time, Indians came to Trinidad to work on sugarcane plantations. People were contracted for a period of 5 years with a daily wage of 25 cents in the early 20th century, and they were granted return passage to India at the end of their contract. However, coerced contracts extended to 10 years. Bait and switch. However, coerced contracts extended to 10 years after the planters complained that they were losing their labor too early. In lieu of the return, the British soon began offering portions of land to encourage settlement. And by 1902, 100 years after the Haitians did their thing, more than half of the sugar cane in Trinidad was being produced by independent cane farmers, the majority of which were Indians. Despite their trying conditions, about 90% of Indian immigrants chose on their own at the end of their servitude to make Trinidad their permanent home. Why would you not? Why would you not choose if you're given and granted land? The people who were there who are indigenous to the land don't get nothing but the short end of the stick, right? But the other ones who've been brought into the land are granted land and all this other stuff. Why wouldn't they stay? Why wouldn't they stay? The more that I look into these things, again, I feel and I hear the ancestors as a result. Um, Living down here in Florida, it's a melting pot, and you're gonna come across a lot of different people, and a lot of people who don't even really know who they are. Um, a lot of islanders, and when I look at their features, um, it blows me. It blows my mind. It really does. Because you can see like the genes, they just come out. You can just see it just out of their being, like who they truly are. And it's not even, again, I've been fortunate enough to be able to travel over um, to South Africa. And one of the things that really like struck a chord with me when I was getting on the plane, it was all of these different like features. I mean, broad nose, thick lips, forehead, long head, big head, short lips, head, shoulders, knees, and toes. It was so like it was so fast. Like there was so much going on. Like in the gene pool, I find it amazing. And you know, with all of this today, to see, the state that we're in, there's still a lot of work to do. Um, I feel blessed and honored. Even though I was born in the States, I was raised in Haitian voodoo. And every day, it seems like my eyes seeing the glory, just this minuscule, just a tidbit every day. I, I, a little bit more, just a little bit more light is shown, and to see and know how sophisticated it is, and to see how these different cultures were able to come together and really learn what nationhood is. Man, it's really it makes it all worthwhile. um so that's a little bit of what I wanted to share with you today. um I'm still working on this whole recording and upload thing. We still working that out, but um, we're gonna get back to it. I don't want to make any empty promises. we're, gonna, we're gonna do the best that we can in order to upload and keep this thing going. So in the meantime, in between time, please take care of yourself and each other. And I will see you soon. The series will continue. We're going a little bit, getting a little deeper. All right. Um, Check out the Veve collection. I would love to hear your thoughts, comments, etc., etc. All right.